صلى على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب، والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, we ask Allah to send His greatest peace and blessings upon Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings He has given us, and the greatest blessing being that He allowed us to be of the ones who remain steadfast, dedicated and loyal on the path of our Master after the Prophet, the commander of the faithful, the prince of the believers, the protector of the Prophet and his message, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this blessing and every blessing, for without Allah we would have nothing. Assalamu alaikum, my dear respected brothers and sisters, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tonight we come together in commemoration of our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alih. And as we bring ourselves here together in thinking about our relationship to this Holy Prophet and what it means for us to be Muslims, to be followers of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, we take a moment of pause to think about what effect has this Holy Prophet had on our lives? What kind of impact has he and his holy progeny, those who have given everything in the path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in guiding humanity? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would say in the Holy Quran, that He sent Muhammad as a mercy to mankind. He sent Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alih as that mercy to the worlds. From every generation, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alih was that mercy. And his holy progeny would be an extension of that mercy. And we, as the followers of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, would benefit from that mercy during their time and during all the generations to come. From the blessed Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, to the awaited Muntadhar al-Imam al-Muntadhar al-Mahdi, ajalallahu ta'ala farajuhu al-Sharif. Brothers and sisters, when we take this moment of pause and we reflect on everything they have given us, we look at ourselves as a community that lives here in the United States, and as any other community that lives in any part of the world, and see the blessing that we are in. That we as followers of Ahlul Bayt, we as Muslims, we as followers of the path of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, sing their praises in all corners of the world, in different languages, in different customs, with different cultures and traditions, all singing their praises and bringing forth the memory that they have. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam would tell us, "Ahyu amrana, rahimallah man ahya amrana." Bring life to our memory, to our cause. May Allah have mercy on those who bring life to our cause. Now when we look at history, we see this movement of Ahlul Bayt, from the Holy Prophet to our awaited Imam. And we see that they are dedicated to two principles. If you look at the movement of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, every single action, every single move that they had fell within a strategy, a long-term vision, protecting the religion, the faith, and protecting the believers. So if you look at the pacts and the treaties of our Holy Prophet, and the battles of defense, the defensive wars that he had in protecting Islam, and protecting the believers, and extend that to the stances and the positions of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, of Lady Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, of Imam al-Hassan, of Imam al-Hussein, and every single one of our Imams after them, it fell to those 2 points, to that 2-pronged strategy, those 2 principles, defending and protecting the faith, the religion, and protecting the believers. Now, how do you and I fall within that strategy? And what is our responsibility to the Imam of our time, to the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, to our religion, to our faith? Where do we fall? What is our relationship to all of that? What is our responsibility? And what is our role in our society? A young man, a young boy, would watch his mother in prayer. And he would sit there in the corner of that room, watching his mother stand, kneel, and prostrate for the entirety of the night. He would watch her as she would raise her head from the ground, and listen to her whispers, listen to her prayers, for not just minutes, but hours. Finally, when she was all done with her prayers, her son, this young boy, would come up to her, and he would ask her, "My dear mother, I've watched you for the entirety of the night as you would pray to your Lord, and all I heard was prayers for other people. Not once did I hear you pray for yourself. Not once did I hear you ask God, God, give me more wealth. Give me better health. Give me more in this world or even more in the next." I didn't hear any of that. His mother would look at him and smile and say, "My son, bunay, al-jar qabla ad-dar." My son, the neighbor before thyself. That mother and that son was no other than Lady Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam and her son Imam al-Hassan. We see that even from these smallest examples, these smallest experiences that Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam had as a family, we would see what it means for us to be their followers. That when we're looking at ourselves and what is our responsibility towards them, it's essentially acknowledging what role that we have within our own society. That if I'm to call myself a follower of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, I must be like Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. I must follow them in their footsteps. And if they held others at such a high esteem and such a high regard, and that I have to think about others before I think about myself, that is one of the first and foremost things that we need to do as well. Now, I mentioned this example because when we look at our society and the society that we live in today, regardless of the diversity that we have, or even if we're in a community that is monolithic, whatever community that we're in, whatever society that we're in, there's definitely going to be differences. There's definitely going to be disagreements. There's definitely going to be some conflict. How do we engage in our society? How do we identify amongst ourselves? How do we see ourselves? Is there an us and them? When we look at Ahlul Bayt and their traditions, we see an emphasis on one knowing who they are, but making sure that they are a mercy to those around them. Take a look at the example of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, the commander of the faithful, Imam Ali, during the tenure of his caliphate. When Imam Ali alayhi salam was the Khalifa only for 4.5 years. For 4.5 years, Imam Ali alayhi salam would rule as head of state. Prior to that, there was 25 years, a 25-year period in which Imam Ali alayhi salam was outside of the seat of the caliphate. He was not at the helm, he was not in power. But still, he would not abandon his nation. He would not abandon his society, his community. He would actually work from within and make sure that justice would reign to the extent possible so long as he was present. In fact, the second caliph would rely on Imam Ali alayhi salam, where he would say that if it was not for him, I would perish. Now look at this example of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the commander of the faithful, at the helm during his 4.5-year tenure as the Khalifa, as the head of state. He was walking in the market one day, something that he did very often, where he would walk in the market like any commoner, like any person, undetected by the people not knowing that this was Amir al-Mu'mineen, not knowing that this was their Khalifa, essentially their head of state, their president, their prime minister, their monarch. They didn't know, because he wanted to make sure that people didn't have to change the way they behaved just because he was around. He wanted people to be in their element. He wanted people to see themselves and work and conduct themselves and behave and interact and engage as they are, not being a threat to anybody around him. So Imam Ali is walking in the market and he sees an elderly man begging. He watches this elderly man go from one person to the next. Please, help me. Please, spare some change. I barely have clothes on my back, no food to eat. I don't even have a house to stay in. I have no family, I have no friends, I have no one to aid me, to protect me, to help me. Please, help me. Imam Ali alayhi salam would watch as this elderly man was begging one person to the next and no one was helping him. He looked around at his company and he said, Man hadha? Who is this? Essentially, who is this that nobody from amongst you is helping him? Some would respond and say, he's but a Christian. To that, Imam Ali alayhi salam would be frustrated, angered, enraged by the fact that people had left truth, left justice, enraged in the name of God, that another human being was being neglected. Imam Ali alayhi salam would turn to those people who would say he's but a Christian, and he would tell them, reprimand them. How dare you use him up in his youth and then neglect him in his old age? Go to Bayt al-Mal, go to the treasury, and take care of him from the money of the treasury. Imam Ali alayhi salam was enraged for the suffering of a Christian. This is something that definitely was not within the doctrine, was not within the lifestyle, the school of thought, the conduct of a follower of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. And thus Imam Ali alayhi salam showed his rage in that situation. A rage that was for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The injustice was taking place. Imam Ali, as the greatest student, companion, and true successor of our Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, would instruct his governor, Malik al-Ashtar, in letter 53 of Nahj al-Balagha, he would tell him, O Malik, do not be a ferocious beast over your subjects. People are one of two kinds, either your brother in faith or your equal in humanity. Either your brother in faith or your equal in humanity. Imam Ali alayhi salam made it clear to us that essentially, when we look at one another in our society, we are either engaging with one another as dear family members, a brother or sister in faith, or an equal. If someone does not share my faith, if someone does not have faith at all, in fact, they are still an equal in humanity. Imam Ali alayhi salam showed this to us time and time again as he engaged in different aspects of his life, whether he was facing a war, a battle, civil strife with other Muslims that would wage war on him, or it was Christians, Jews, non-believers in his own community, and how they would be treated in his own community. Imam Ali alayhi salam, as the greatest student of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa made it clear to us how we engage. But first, you need to know who you are. We need to know who we are. We are proud followers of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. We are proud followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. We emphasize our love to Ahlul Bayt and our dedication to them. Why? Because Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa dedicated and emphasized that love for them. The Holy Prophet would say, Aliyun minni wa ana min Ali. In the same, like in other narrations, he would say, Husaynun minni wa ana min Husayn. Ahabba Allah man ahabba Husayna. Husayn is from me, and I am from Husayn. Allah loves those who love Husayn. Now when we come towards the commemoration of Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam, and that of the same commemoration of any members of Ahlul Bayt, and why we emphasize our love and dedication to them, it is because it is an instruction from our Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and nothing else. It is an instruction ultimately from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah tells us in the Holy Quran, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. He, Muhammad, does not speak out of whim. He is nothing but revelation. When we look at our Holy Prophet, his esteem to us, his status to us is like no other. He is our final, our last, the mercy to mankind, the one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored because of his excellence and his perfection and his immaculateness. He honored him in being that mercy to mankind for us. So we look to him for our guidance. And he continues to point us in the right direction. He continues to point us to Ahlul Bayt. He tells us, if you wish to enter the city of knowledge, for which I am, أَنَا مَدِينَةُ الْعَلْمِ وَعَلِيٌّ بَابُهَا. I am the city of knowledge and Ali is its gate. Whoever wishes to enter the city must enter through its gate. When we look at them, we see our guidance. Now, if we look at ourselves and we see, yes, we are followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, that could be our core identity. What immediately goes beyond that identity? This are some of our scholars have described as the four spheres of identity. It's a heritage that we've had and we've inherited from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam as they instructed and guided their companions and their followers. That core identity is that we are followers of Ahlul Bayt. The sphere immediately beyond that, the sphere of identity beyond that, is that we are Muslims. We belong to the body of Islam just like anybody else that calls themselves a Muslim. We belong to Islam. We are Muslims. So do not detach your identity in being a follower of Ahlul Bayt, being a Shia, away from that identity. This is something that's actually emphasized to us by our grand scholars. In one of the visits that I had with some of our brothers in the holy city of Najaf, in the Islamic seminary, we visited one of the grand scholars, one of the Maraja, and he emphasized to us that make sure in your discussions, in your lectures, in your research, in your writings, that when you speak of Ahlul Bayt, when you speak of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, do not come across as if Ali ibn Abi Talib is some type of reformer, someone who came after Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alih to bring something different. Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam belongs to the straight, pure, truthful body of Islam. And that we need to emphasize that when we're speaking of this narrative, this is Islam's narrative. This is our narrative. And we belong to that narrative and we claim Islam just as much as anybody else. Our identity needs to be clear in that. That's the second sphere of identity, Islam. The third sphere of identity, which we share with our monotheistic brothers and sisters, is that we believe in one God. And that's an identity that we have with Christians and Jews. The fourth sphere of identity is the identity of humanity. That when I look at who I am, at the end of the day, even if I don't share creed, belief in religion, or faith in God, I share this equality in humanity. So when I look at other human beings, I don't make a judgment and act on my judgment where I am condescending or I am one who is to treat people lesser than me because they don't share the same faiths as I do. Or in another element, they don't share the same background as I do, be it ethnicity and nationality or any other kind, like race. At the end of the day, we are a very diverse community. Amongst us, we have Arabs, Afghanis, Pakistanis, Indians, Khoja, Iranians, people from different immigrant backgrounds, Americans, natural born, naturalized. If we look around us, we see a beautiful diversity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran in chapter 49, verse 13, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلًا لِتَعَارَفُوا. We have created you as nations and tribes so that you may get to know one another. Nations and tribes so that you may get to know one another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us clearly He celebrates diversity and wants us to engage in our society in a way where we look at one another and we want to get to know one another. Just because something is different doesn't mean it's bad. We want to get to know one another and celebrate those diversity and those differences. Because what brings us together, what unites us, is so much more than what can divide us. But if only we looked at it in that way. Now, we may feel disenfranchised, disenchanted. We may feel discouraged at times, depending on where we live and the challenges that we face. That we may not be living in a Muslim or Islamic community, if you will, like maybe some of our parents or grandparents or relatives have experienced overseas, especially those of us who come from immigrant backgrounds. For me, for example, I come from a family who immigrated from Lebanon during the Civil War in the 70s. And the experiences that maybe my parents had growing up in Lebanon, in the Middle East, are definitely different than some of those that I've experienced growing up here in Michigan in the United States. And when we look at that, some of us may feel like, well, what is going to happen to me if I continue to grow and live in this country or in this community, in this city, in this state? A beautiful example comes actually during the time of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, our sixth Imam. One of his companions named Hamad was a merchant, a businessman essentially. And he was living not in what was considered to be Muslim lands, Muslim communities, Muslim cities. He was living at the time in the Byzantine Roman Empire. So Hamad is traveling back to Medina one day and he's visiting Imam al-Sadiq. And he was obviously bothered by something. So as he sits down, he begins complaining to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, who's asking him, how are you? What's wrong? What's going on? Hamad begins to explain to him, every time I come back to Medina and I visit people, I talk to people, they begin to take jabs at me. They begin to mock me, even reprimand me, telling me, you're going to be resurrected with those disbelievers, those unbelievers that you live with. So Hamad was obviously bothered, especially when he's coming back home and people are taking these jabs at him and reprimanding him for the place that he lives. Hamad had gone there to seek opportunity to provide a better lifestyle for his family and provide for his loved ones, like many of us in our immigrant backgrounds and coming to the United States, where we were either fleeing persecution or seeking opportunity. So Hamad is complaining to the Imam and the Imam is listening. He pauses after he's done and he asks him, oh Hamad, when you're living in the Byzantine Empire, living in the cities that you live in, over there, outside of the Muslim lands, outside of the Muslim cities, do you remember us? Do you remember our cause? Do you remember your faith? Hamad looks at the Imam and says, yes, I do, O Imam. Imam al-Sadiq then asked him, when you come back to these lands, do you remember our cause? Do you remember us? Do you remember your faith? He lowered his head and he said, no, I don't. He said, oh Hamad, on the day of judgment, God will not resurrect you with the disbelievers, the unbelievers. God will resurrect you as a nation of your own and light will be beaming from your hands. Light will be beaming from your hands. This should give us another moment of pause when we think about our relationship with the Holy Prophet and the Imams. What are they telling us? What are they telling us about our situation, about our status, about where we live and how we live, and how we're to treat other people and treat ourselves and look at ourselves? One, we definitely need to be cognizant of the basic principle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in chapter 49 of the Holy Quran, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةً, the believers are brothers. So look to your right, my dear brother, and my dear sister. Look to your right. Really, look to your right. Look to your left. Look at the people around you. These are your brothers. These are your sisters. These are people that you have to take care of. You have to look at and be mindful of. This is your family. If not in blood, in faith. And be mindful of that. Then when you go outside and you have people that don't share the same faith as you, maybe they may be sharing a faith with you, that being monotheism. That is something that is extremely significant. And even if they don't share any faith with you, they are a human being and they deserve that respect and that dignity as every human being does, regardless of their faith, their belief, their creed. They deserve that respect and that dignity because we are all equals. As Imam Ali alayhi salam would instruct his governor, we are all equals. That enfranchises us to be part of any society that we live in, and that we are not a threat to anybody around us. In fact, we are an extension of that manifestation of God's mercy. That manifestation of God's mercy being that mercy to mankind, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. We're an extension of that. We should be proud of that. We should look at this rich heritage that we have. And when we look at our children, when I look at my 11-month-old daughter, Emily Zahra, and I see her, I see this beautiful baby girl as an extension of the rich heritage that I've received, not simply by blood or by being passed on from my parents and their grandparents and the generation that came before, but what we are teaching our children, what we are teaching one another in the heritage of Ahlul Bayt. Whether it is through coming new into the faith or being born into the religion and the faith and the creed, We are part of this rich heritage because it is a heritage chosen by principle, not one that is just simply inherited. Look at this faith. Look at its history. Look at the Imams and what they went through. Look at all the sacrifices that they made. On the day of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam would sacrifice everything in order for us to be something, in order for us to know who we are, in order for us to have this beautiful faith, Islam, and follow the path of God, the one destined to bring success to humanity in this life and the next. Now our Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, on his deathbed, what instructions did he give? What stories were told? Who was near him? Who was next to him? If I tell you this tale of sorrow, will you lend me your hearts to borrow? Will you shed a tear for Hussein? Will you remember Zainab's pain? If I tell you this tale of sorrow, will you lend me your hearts to borrow? Will you shed a tear for Hussein? Will you remember Zainab's pain? If I tell you this tale of sorrow, will you lend me your hearts to borrow? Will you shed a tear for Hussein? Will you remember Zainab's pain? And if we stay here tonight until tomorrow, will you bear this tale of sorrow? Listen here to Hussein's story, a story of heartache and glory. Before the day of Ashura, many years before, the tragedy of Imam al-Hussein would be remembered by his holy prophet, his holy grandfather Rasulullah. Brothers and sisters, on that day, when Rasulullah was on his deathbed, who was around him, who surrounded him? It was his beloved family, his brother Ali, his daughter Fatima, his grandsons Al-Hassan wal-Hussein. Picture the scene with me as our beloved Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alih was weakened, was frail, his body deteriorating. Rasulullah was weaker and weaker by day. He would have Fatima next to him. He would tell her, my dear Fatima, come closer to me, my daughter. I wish to tell you something. He would embrace her. He would hold her for a few moments. And he would tell her a secret. No one could hear, no one would hear what he told Fatima. Fatima would smile and then she would take a few steps away. After Rasulullah had passed, people would go to Fatima and he would tell her, people would go to Fatima and ask her, oh Fatima, what did Rasulullah tell you? What did Rasulullah whisper to you? She said, my father Rasulullah, my father, the messenger of God, he would tell me, Ya Fatima, you will be the first one to follow me after me. Oh Fatima, you will be martyred and you will be oppressed. Oh Fatima, you will follow me just in days. Oh Fatima, you will see me soon. Dear brothers and sisters, on the Prophet's deathbed, Al-Imam al-Hassan, Al-Imam al-Hussein, these young boys, the grandsons of Rasulullah, They would come forward wanting to embrace their grandfather, wanting to embrace Rasulullah. As they would come forward, Imam Ali alayhi salam, their father, he would grab them and he would take them to the side. He would tell them, "Oh my sons, let your grandfather rest. He's not feeling well." Rasulullah would tell him, "My brother, Ya Ali, allow my grandsons to see me, bring them closer to me." Al-Imam al-Hassan, Al-Imam al-Hussein would come forward. Al-Imam al-Hassan would hug Rasulullah. He would hug his grandfather crying. Rasulullah would begin crying. He would kiss him on his face and he would whisper to him, "Ya bunayya ya Hassan, my grandson, oh Hassan, know that after me you will be killed by our own people. They will poison you and they will make you a martyr. Ya bunayya ya Hassan, you will be poisoned and martyred." Imam al-Hassan would embrace Rasulullah and he would cry with him and continue to hug him. Then Imam al-Hussein would come forward and he would join the embrace. Rasulullah, his crying would increase and become much stronger. He would hold Imam al-Hussein and he would kiss Imam al-Hussein on his neck and he would tell him, "Bunayya ya Hussein, you will be killed by our people. You will be slaughtered on the land of Karbala. You will be beheaded and your blood will stain the sands of Karbala." The crying would increase between Rasulullah and Imam al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein was embracing Rasulullah. Oh brothers and sisters, think about this in these moments. Rasulullah, when he was dying, his family was around him, embracing him. When Lady Fatima alayha salam, when she was martyred, Imam Ali alayhi salam was there to bury her. When Al-Hassan was killed by poison, Imam al-Hussein was there on his deathbed. But with Imam al-Hussein who was there to hold him. Remember when Abu Fadl al-Abbas was sitting, lying on the sands of Karbala next to the Euphrates River, and Imam al-Hussein would come to him and place his head in his lap. Abu Fadl al-Abbas would remove his head once, twice, and 3 times. And Imam al-Hussein would tell him, "Ya Abu Fadl, oh Abbas, my brother, why don't you let me comfort you? Why don't you let me console you? Why don't you let me hold you?" Al-Abbas would answer this for us and he would say, "Ya Abba Abdullah, if I let you console me, if I let you comfort me, if I let you hold me, who will hold you? Who will console you? Who will comfort you when no one is left for you? Wa Husayna, wa Husayna, wa Husayna, wa Husayna." Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept the tears that we have shed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive all that we have done and accept the small deeds of virtue that we bring forth. We ask Allah to protect us. We ask Allah to cure our ill ones. We ask Allah to have mercy on our deceased souls. We ask Allah to bring us together on the path of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to strengthen us, our families and our community. We ask Allah to hasten the reappearance of our Imam, الإمام المنتظر المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us united on the path of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. And the last of our prayers, and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. وأفضل الصلاة والتسليم على نبينا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد. Let us recite Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha for the souls of all of our deceased ones and the souls of those who have made this program possible, for all of us to come together and commemorate Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alih and his holy progeny, his holy family. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on their souls, and we give the blessings of Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha. Again, before it, Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. بسم الله.